So, I've been a fan of the 80s cult classic movie Labyrinth since it came out, and every once in a while I rewatch it, and I quite often turn my mind to many of the lessons that are in it. It has a lot of morals that are quite deep, I think. And there is an exchange at the beginning of the movie with Jareth, who is the Goblin King and who plays the part of the villain-ish part of the story. Jareth and Sarah, who's the main character, the heroine. And so it goes like this. Jareth says, "You're no match for me." Sarah, "But I have to have my brother back." And to give a little background on this, if you haven't seen it, Jareth stole her baby brother. However, he did it after Sarah had basically prayed to have her baby brother not exist because he was being frustrating to her. And, she had the perspective that the baby brother was ruining her life. She was a young teenage girl. And she got her prayer granted, So there's that. So Jareth said, "He's there." And he pointed to the maze. There was a huge maze before her. And then the Goblin King's castle in the distance. And he had pointed to the castle, but before the castle, there's this maze. "Do you still want to look for him? Turn back." Sarah says, "Don't you understand that I can't? It doesn't look that far." Jareth, "It's further than you think, and time is short. You must solve the labyrinth, or your brother becomes one of us." And I love that exchange. And I also had written a while back that this is a metaphor for our work to reclaim our brotherhood and sisterhood on this earth. And the forces represented by Jareth who try to challenge us in repairing that brotherhood. And by the way, Jareth wouldn't be something outside of us because it's all us. We're our own forces. Okay? So, the adventures of Earth life can be thought of in many different ways and termed in many different ways. And I don't think every single person is here for the same reason, but I would say that most of us are here for certain kinds of lessons and practicum. And not everyone is at the same lessons, although the one that I'm going to talk about today, even if you're not specifically here for that, I don't think there's a bad time to learn it. I was raised in a tradition where I learned about heaven with some concepts that were already thousands of years old. But I was taught to look forward to something after death. And as I've grown, I've brought that back to the present, first of all. I don't really find an afterlife heaven worthwhile if the present isn't also peaceful. I mean, I'm going to be me wherever I go. And if I don't like myself and if I don't like my companions, then heaven's not going to be very fun for me. I have to do that work now. I have to enjoy myself right now. And then heaven will be with me now. Heaven will be with me later, wherever I go next, whatever it is. And also, I also had the idea that heaven was a little bit like an exclusive club that some people got in and some people didn't. And that this was final for eternity. I don't think that scenario can be played out. Well, here's what happened to me is I started to realize that there were people that I loved that didn't meet the criteria for the heaven that I had understood. And then, of course, I started not to meet the criteria too. The old ones, the old criteria. I'm not in that headspace anymore, but it was kind of a passage for me. And I always felt like, I was going to get a big house and golden cobblestones and harps playing and just, everything I ever wanted. Like if I wanted to read, reading was important to me. And if I wanted to do music, all of that would be just provided for me. In heaven, it was, and all the relationships would be wonderful for those who had made it. And then I realized that there were people missing from my heaven according to these criteria. And I didn't want them to be missing. And there was no way that there could be a heaven for me with these people missing. And I went through various stages on that to the point where I'm at now, where for me, heaven is being here on earth. This is my heaven, because this is my heaven where I'm with all of you. This is my heaven where I have some very beautiful challenges, some very beautiful experiences. I even the parts that are painful have been blessings to me, because I wouldn't give those experiences back. And it's because, even like losing someone to death, it's because I had the privilege of having them in the first place. Even things like that are difficult, like I thought I was going to die from some of the papers I had to write in college, right? It was like, why do I have to go through writing these papers till 4 a.m. to get this done or whatever? But the privilege was gaining the knowledge and going through school, and it was part of the whole package. Again, being a mother, there's throw up, there's poop, there's kids who are screaming and jumping on the couch, there's kids who are sick and you don't know how to help them, you can't figure out, the doctors can't help you. But all of that is in the package of having children. And so it's so valuable to me here. And even if I were sent to some place where there was harps playing and I could sit on a couch and take a hot bubble bath for eternity, that would probably last for about 5 eternal minutes for me. And then I'd be like, can you just send me back? I want to have another set of experiences. Now that's in total. But one of those experiences is continuing to bless the lives of other human beings. And in one sense, it can be considered reclaiming and rescuing people. That's actually one perspective. Another one is that maybe none of us need to be rescued. But I think in terms of this earth life, it's a worthy thing, because there are people in chains and darkness and suffering and that need a little bit of help out. We all need help at some point. And it's good to work on yourself. And I'm actually a big believer in that. I believe that there's a degree to which you cannot help other people and you cannot be with other people unless you have cleared yourself and helped yourself and healed yourself. On the other hand, sometimes the best healings are to be with other people who, love us, especially if we've grown up in places that we didn't get a lot of love. To meet into another community is like very healing. Like, we have to help each other out back and forth in these things. We can't all do the healing of ourselves by ourselves. Maybe 75% of it, but 25% of it has got to be helping each other out. And if I would never, if I was some kind of eternal being with endless, in my goodness and my ability to do anything increased, the only thing I would want to do is rescue people. That would be the only thing I would ever want to do in eternity. I would take breaks, yes, but I would always come back. So Earth life right now is part of that eternity. And, again, we spend a lot of time trying to take our rights from our brothers. Like, you don't have the right to do that to me. You're the oppressor. You're the outcast. So that's both ends of the spectrum. A spectrum where the oppressor is doing the oppressing, and we can all be oppressors. The person who's harming and assaulting. Then we also have the people who are, to us, in some way gross. Like, there's something about them. They're outcast, and they're not fit for company. Maybe they haven't really done anything. They've just gone on hard times, but we kind of turn up our nose. So we've got all those, according to our ideas of the culture we're in, we've got that spectrum. And then we've got the rest of us, quote unquote, who probably has all that stuff going on the inside, the oppression and the outcastness going on the inside, but we've got it all painted over with whitewash, right? So it looks good. Put a smile on our face and we head to work. And so it's not that some people need rescue and some people don't, but I'm getting through some of the hardest times in my life, and I feel like I'm in a good place, and that I have peace, and so I do feel like I have some strength to give out to other people, and I appreciate for the people who have had strength, who have lent some to me. So there are places we can get to where it's not like hand to mouth all the time, whether literally or spiritually, and we can help other people. But here's the thing too, that to me it's almost like the epitome of what it means to be a being and a human is to find that brotherhood. You aren't a human by yourself. And every place that you see a problem, maybe you can think of it as an area of reclaiming brotherhood. Maybe it's because you are lonely and by yourself and you need to reach out. Maybe it's someone you're having a conflict with. How could you turn that into brotherhood? Or, you can't force someone else to do it, but as close as you can. And we don't all have to be the same. We don't all have to fit criteria. I remember one time there was an internet site I was frequenting, and it was a religious site, and so there was a lot of religious debate, and there were all kinds of people on there. Some were very religious, some were atheists, everybody in between, all ages, all sizes, all ethnicities. And we, on the website board, we argued all the time, but there was at one point somebody who said, well, let's meet up in real life. Let's have dinner at such and such a restaurant in such and such a city. And so everybody wanted to do that. And we came to this table and nobody brought up religion or fought. We all just had, ribs or whatever it was we ordered, and we laughed. And again, some people were married, some people were single, some people were tall, some people were short, some people were moms, some people were hadn't been married, some people were past the childbearing, some of them were straight, some of them were gay. It was like a huge table of like 25 people, and I was looking around like, how do you get this cross section? I don't think you could find this cross section anywhere except in the earth itself, right? And I really realized that heaven was just sitting around the table. It didn't mean that we were all the same. It means that we are just happy to be here in the adventure and to be in each other's presence bodily and in peace. And, we do pray, like Sarah did, sometimes to get rid of our brothers. But what if we had that wish? Oh my gosh, what if we got that wish? And I'm not saying this to allow toxic people to harm you, but this earth life is the labyrinth. And I hope that one of these days I'll actually talk about that one of these days. But we are in the labyrinth right now on the way to the castle. That's what we're doing. But the castle is that union with our brother again, or sister. And or your brother becomes one of us. Well, again, it's not something else. It's like it's us becoming us, but in a way that is lonely and heartbroken. And we've all had our heart broken, but there should be some healing for that. And we're always going to be goblins, unless we can find some way to open and become brothers and sisters. And it's not wimpy stuff. It's not like necessarily something you do in an instant. Sometimes you might be able to change your mind and heart instantly. It's possible. And we have enough big situations in our world right now that we have to be very creative about how we might approach someone, because we have fear. We're afraid of each other sometimes. I used to be super afraid of people, and sometimes they still do terrify me. But the quest is very clear to me. Even if I don't know how to do it, the quest itself is very clear to me. And, this is Cain and Abel. Cain killed his brother Abel, and we're all Cain. We're not Abel, we're all Cain. Even if you don't kill them physically, there's ways that we are harming each other sometimes, even in our ignorance. And the sound of God is, where is your brother? And it wasn't that God was saying it outside of Cain, but Cain heard this from inside himself because he was missing his brother. Where is my brother? And so, yeah, there's so many ways and endless ways to talk about that, but I think you get the nugget of it. And maybe instead of trying to fix the world like everybody fits certain criterias, just reach out without having anybody change who they are. Just for 1 second, reach out, put your arm around somebody and squeeze them. Just say, I'm glad you're here. I know it's tough. I know we don't always see eye to eye. I'm glad you're here on this planet with me. And maybe that will be a moment of heaven. I'm pretty sure it would be for me. And the work of heaven, you can call it whatever you want, but the work of heaven is never going to be finished until everyone is in the circle. The work of heaven does not leave anyone out. We cut ourselves off. We cast ourselves out. Now, I'm not saying that hasn't happened in real time with other people casting people out. That obviously happens all the time. But if one set of people don't get you, then you go on your quest and find the people who will. And you love yourself first. You draw yourself into your circle, and you make your circle. You start your circle and your people from the point of where you are. And then you start bringing people in, maybe people who are less fortunate than you, because there always are and will be. Hey buddy, just that. Hey buddy, how you doing? You can say that to anybody on the street. Okay. I love you, and I'll talk to you later.